Hello, everyone. Today we are going to do kind of a shorter lesson. Should be mostly review. It's lesson 1.8. So we're going to go to the note-taking guide. It's on the coordinate plane. So coordinate plane basically is the whole field for a graph. Okay, so this whole thing would be called the coordinate plane. This is the coordinate plane. X, just going over the parts of it, we'll go through these definitions here. The x-axis is the horizontal axis, or the one that goes left and right. Y-axis is the vertical, or the one that goes up and down. Okay, the origin, if anything refers to the origin, that is 0, 0. Okay, a quadrant is broken into, or is one of the 4 parts of the coordinate plane. So most of the time in math, they'll refer to it as quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Okay, so they use Roman numerals. So in what you're used to would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, those are the quadrants. An ordered pair is going to be how we label the points. Most of you have seen points, but they're going to be in parentheses, separated by a comma. The first number is how far you move in the x direction, so left and right. The second number is how far you go in the y direction, so up and down. And we'll go over a bunch of examples of that. So again, this would also be called the x-coordinate. This would be called the y-coordinate. And then we'll talk about a scatter plot in a second here. So example 1, this is just a review on how to plot points. Okay, so they just want you to hear the name, the points. So they got point A right here. So you just got to say, how do I get there? And I guess it doesn't matter if you go left or right, up and down first, as long as you label it correctly. So we're just going to go the left or right first, because that's what you label first for the x-coordinate, and then up or down second. So to get to point A, you have to go left 2. So left is represented with a -2, because you're to the left of the origin. And then you got to go up 3, so that's represented by +3. So letter A is the point -2, 3. Okay. Point B is right here. So to name that, if we start at 0, 0, we have to go over 4. So the x-coordinate is 4. And then we go down 1. So down is represented by negative. So B is the point for -1. Okay. Go over some more examples here. And they already wrote the answers in here. So C, you go left 2. So that's -2. And then you don't go up or down at all. It's on the x-axis. So that's 0. D. D is over here. So you got to go, I'll try to do this as neatly as possible. You got to go, whoops, left 4 and down 3. So -4, -3, because you went left and down. Those are both negative. Point E. Looks like you got to go from the origin. You always start at the origin. You go over 2. And so that's a +2, because you went right. And then you go down 4. So that's a -4. Okay. Here it says plot the point and then describe the location. So they have already plotted the points in here. So if they gave you the point 2, 3, you have to go right 2, and then up 3. There's point A. Now what they mean, describe the location, back up on the other screen where I had the quadrants. That's in quadrant 1. Okay, that's not going to be a huge deal going forward, but it's in here, so I'm just going to go over it. Next point, -4, 0. So -4 means you go left 4, and then 0 means you don't go up or down, you're right there. So we can't say it's in a quadrant, 1, 2, 3, or 4, but we can say it's on the x-axis. It's right on that line. Okay. Last point on this one, 1, -3. So +1 means you go right 1, -3 means you go down 3. There's the point, and that is in quadrant 4. So remember, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I don't think we need to really go over maybe just number 4 here because it's somewhat different. 0, 3. 0 means you don't go left or right at all, and the 3 means you go up 3. There's the point. And again, you're not in a quadrant, you're on the y-axis this time. Okay. And just very quickly, -2, -4, left 2, down 4. That's a quadrant 3. And last one, -1s, you go left, and then 2 is up 2. That puts you in quadrant 2. Okay. Last type of thing that we're going to look at is something called a scatter plot. So let's read through it, and then we'll look what a scatter plot is. So the number of hours you spent studying for 5 different math tests, and the score you got in each test is given in the table. Make a scatter plot of the data to describe any relationship you see. So what a scatter plot is used for is to put data onto a type of graph that you can look at visually and see if you notice a pattern. And then if you do, it can be used to predict a pattern. It can be used a lot in things like business and stuff like that to predict profits and things like that. Now, this is just an example with a math test, but let's take a look at it. So they have 2 types of data that go together, the hours spent studying and the test score that went with that test. Okay, so this test, they spent 1 hour studying, they got a 55, 3 hours studying, 78. These both are different tests. They spent 4 hours studying, they got 86 and 89, and another one they spent 5 hours and they got 98. So to create a scatter plot, it's a little bit like the histogram, except we don't have intervals on the bottom, which you might not remember what the histogram is. So it's kind of like a bar graph, except you're just putting dots instead of making bars. Generally, the item that you kind of decide, or a person decides, or something decides what they're going to do is the bottom one. So here, people are deciding how many hours they're going to study. The one that is the result of that generally goes on the vertical axis. So here, the test score is generally the result of how many hours you study. So the scale on the bottom is easy. It just goes by ones because the numbers are very small. On the left side, you got to pick a scale that fits. And here, the top one's close to 100, so they go up to 100 here. Now they start at 0. Okay. Technically, you could have started at 50, but if you were going to ever add to this graph, you have to know that scores could go from 0 to 100. So maybe they're just leaving room for if there's future data. In this data, you could have started at 50 and went to 100, and that would have been okay also. So now what they do is they plot these points. Now, when you have a scale here going by 10, now, and that could be different depending on like the size of your graph paper and size of your graph. Here they had to, to fit it in, they had to go by 10s. So when you're graphing these, it's not going to be exact, but like 1 and 55, it's going to be basically right between 50 and 60, maybe just slightly higher. 3 and 78, they're just a little bit below 80. 86 and the 89. So it's just a little over halfway, and then right before the 90, and then the 98 is just almost right up to the 100. And then you plot your points, and you can see that the points rise from left to right. So you can conclude as the hours spent studying increase, your test scores increase. So that's called a correlation. See if we follow, it's kind of forms a line. Okay, so that's a positive, that would be called what's a positive correlation, the increase from left to right. Okay, if it was decrease from left to right, that'd be negative. That's all we have in the note-taking guide. So if we look at the study guide here, these beginning parts, again, if you can go through and get these right, you're probably fine for the tests. Again, the answers are in the back, so if you went through and did these, you're probably understanding plotting points, and a lot of you maybe don't even need to practice this. If you totally got it, good to go. Making a scatter plot, they have another example. You don't even have to make it in this one, and they just say describe the relationship. So the one thing they may have on the practice here that they don't have on the study guide that you may want to do, and you can earn extra credit on it. This stuff is all basically your review. You probably don't need to do all those, but maybe this could be something that you could be tested on, making a scatter plot. Okay, understanding how to, now they've actually done the scale for you, and they've made the graph. So this would just kind of be an introduction to making one, just making sure you kind of, plot the points correctly, and then you can check it with the answer in the back. When we get to the review for this test, if there's going to be one on the test, I'll have one on the review where you make it from scratch. So, but this would maybe be a good spot to start. So, again, that was a quicker one. We're going to be ready for a test soon on this stuff because 1.5 through 1.8 is our next test, and it's probably going to be a shorter one because all those adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, positive and negative numbers was a quick one. We're just going to do some word problems on that. So it's probably going to be a shorter test. You will have a review first. Make sure you send me a chat message on if you watch this video or not. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know.